you have ever had the desire to capture your fishing adventures on video or just film for fun to learn and improve off the water, then this is the video for you. I'm gonna share with you every tip and trick that I have learned over my 12 years of filming my fishing adventures. That way you can record the best fishing video possible, whether you're fishing from the bank, a kayak, a Jon Boat, a big fancy bass boat, or inside your house or your garage. My name's Tyler, and let's talk about it.
Another giant, another giant. Look at that, y'all.
I can't believe what I just caught.
Yes!
Today's video is brought to you by Amaran Lighting. They helped me out big time in the designing of my studio you see here. More about them and how you can build your own studio like this, or just find out more about lighting solutions as an angler later on in the video. So I made this exact video almost 2 years ago, and while I still agree with many of the things that I taught and the ways that I filmed, over the past 2 years, I have traveled the country, making even more videos for myself and on the Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour following Alton Jones Jr. So I have learned a lot of new, pretty sneaky tips and tricks when it comes to filming your fishing adventures. And so of course, I want to teach them all to you guys in today's video. So here's the structure of the video. First, we're going to talk about the purpose. Why are you actually grabbing a camera and filming out on the water in the first place? Second, I'm going to recommend camera gear for you, whether you are just beginning or you've been filming for a very long time, making sure you guys understand what's actually important with your camera gear and your audio and what's totally unneeded. And lastly, I'm going to show you guys every single camera angle that I use from every platform, bass boat, kayak, the bank, which angles I hate, which angles I love. That way you guys can make the best video possible. So let's begin with your video's purpose. The purpose of the video you are filming radically changes what camera gear you need to buy and of course how much money you need to spend. And so if your purpose in filming fishing videos is purely to watch your fishing skills evolve, maybe watch your hook set, watch how you cast, watch how you skip, and make improvements based on that, the only camera you need is going to be an action camera. You don't have to worry about audio. You don't have to worry about quality all that much, or angles for that matter, if you're just filming for the purpose of watching for yourself. But I would say most people watching this video, probably at least in the age of social media, want to share their video somewhere, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or YouTube. And so if that is the case, your audio is going to be very, very important. We're going to talk about all this here in a second. So let me circle back to camera gear. You are watching this video right now on a several $1,000 camera body itself and another several $1,000 lens. Do you need that? Absolutely not. This is my full-time job, so I have several GoPro cameras. I've got 2 nice cameras. I've got a fancy drone. Do you need it? I'm going to reiterate, no. And my favorite that's been battle tested year after year after year is going to be a GoPro. My favorite being the Hero 10. I've had this exact camera body for I think 3 to 4 years. Whenever it came out is when I bought it, and it has been a bulletproof camera ever since. Now, I know DJI has had some action cameras come out and they've kind of rivaled the GoPro, and so do your research, find whatever camera fits your needs. But the reason why I say the only camera a fishing content creator, again, if you are making videos of your fishing, spoiler alert, you're now a content creator. They record all day, they get relatively good audio, actually pretty good audio, and so if you want to get a camera, get a stinking GoPro. The Hero 10 is my favorite. I have not tried the newer GoPros, but they're more expensive. Just get a 10. Now, if you have a GoPro and you want to buy a nicer camera, the option you're going to want to go is the mirrorless camera route. It used to be the DSLR, now it is a mirrorless camera like the one you're watching on right here, the Sony a7S Mark III. Now, it's an expensive camera. Do you need it? Absolutely not. A good or a better budget-friendly option is going to be the Sony ZV line of cameras. They have a whole bunch in that line. I'm sure you can find even better budget options out there. I would just call BH Photo or your local camera store and ask them what they would recommend for your needs. You just want to make sure that it has the interchangeable lens options and can have a microphone plugged into it. The one recommendation I do have though when it comes to getting a larger camera is make sure you get a lens with a focal length of at least 16 millimeters. So the lens you're watching on right now is 16 millimeters. It goes all the way to 35. That's 35, that's 16. Any smaller, so let's say 24, you kind of got to sit a little farther back from the camera, which again, if it's not windy at all, the shotgun mic I have here on my camera can pick it up. But if you have a lens that's 35 at the smallest, I have to sit all the way back here. You don't want that. I'm just telling you, in the majority of cases, you want a wide focal length camera lens. A drone, do you need one? Absolutely not. Just get whatever you can afford. The best, and I think the videographers talk about this, the best camera is the one that you have in your hands. So now that we've discussed camera gear, I want to pivot back to camera audio, because that is infinitely more important than the video quality if you're going to be posting your videos anywhere, especially if you're trying to help your sponsors, grow a page, make a big YouTube channel. You need to have good audio. That's a non-negotiable. I think I can speak for every viewer when I say I would rather watch a low quality 480p GoPro clip with fantastic audio than a TV quality camera with horrible audio full of wind. Now later on in the video, I am going to talk about audio when it comes to filming all the angles I have, but most of the time I'm using an external audio source, and I would highly recommend you do that as well, or at least have one running just in case your audio gets too windy, because we film on the water, there's wind, there's weather, there's elements, and so you want to have good audio. So the first thing I would recommend is getting a lavalier mic. This here is the Tascam DR10L. I believe it's $200, which I know is out of the price range for a lot of people, so there's much cheaper wired lavalier options. But one thing that I've been using a ton of recently, and I guarantee you've heard a lot of the audio, is going to be a wireless lavalier system. This here being one of the nicest ones out there, at least it comes in a small cohesive package, and that is the DJI mic system. They have the Mic 1 and the newer version, the Mic 2 that I have here. It comes with 2 different transmitters and 1 receiver. This thing sits either underneath your phone or on top of your camera and gets both feeds from 2 different microphones, or one if you just want to use it straight into the camera. That way there is no linking in post. There's no putting the audio track and the video track together. It just goes straight into one thing, just like the shotgun mic on top of my camera right now is going into this camera. And that brings me to a shotgun mic. In the vast majority of cases, if I am talking to the camera, I call this talking head style content, I'm using a shotgun mic. That is, I'll put a B-roll shot here. It is a simple microphone that takes audio from the very front of it and shoots it into the camera. And if I can get away with it, I'm gonna use the shotgun 99% of the time, but the shotgun is on the camera. It sits there. And so if the camera's in the back of the boat and I'm on the front, the camera can hardly hear me, and so you need an audio source on your body. And since the beginning of this channel, I have preferred, if I can, to use the native audio on the GoPro over any other audio source, especially when it comes to ones on my body. And I think it's because the GoPro just sounds the best. This thing right here, the GoPro itself, is what, $300-400? This mic set itself is the same exact price. So why am I getting a fancy camera and better audio than I get here? I don't know. And the one thing I think the GoPro does so well when it comes to audio is that it captures very omnidirectional audio. So if a fish jumps over here or over there or behind me, this camera hears it a whole lot better than a wired lavalier microphone or a wireless microphone like the DJI mic. These two right here are very sensitive microphones. So if you are talking this far away from the microphone, it's good. But if the mic's way out here, it's not good. That is why I prefer the GoPro audio over everything else, but sometimes it is way too windy. Not even this little fuzzy sticker I put on the GoPro can solve the wind, and so therefore I have to go with other options. Now, if you film the majority of your fishing content on your smartphone, I've seen at the TikTok shop, they have like really cheap wireless lavalier options that literally go into the bottom of your phone and then clip on your body. I will leave some here on the screen and of course link down in the video description. All the camera gear I talk about will be down there on my Amazon storefront. And to wrap up the audio section of this video, I'm just gonna say it again, it is important to have good audio, and even if it takes some linking in post, that means in the editing software, making sure you have your main video track and whatever audio came with it, whether it's bad or good, linked to the best audio possible, it is worth the time to have really good audio. I take pride in my channel on having the best audio possible, and you guys should as well. Now, one last thing I want to teach you guys about your cameras before you start filming is the quality and the frame rate. Let's just stick with a GoPro for this example here. If you're filming on a GoPro to catch fishing action, you should have the quality in 1080p. You don't need 2.7K. You definitely don't need 4K or above. That kind of quality is just going to take up storage on your SD cards and your computer's hard drive. And so I film in 1080p, and the frame rate, that means how many times the shutter is clicking per second, is 60 frames per second to slow the speed down to 50%. So if I have a fish jump near the boat, or I just want to show a cast in slow-mo or a hook set in slow-mo, I can do that in 60 frames per second. And if your GoPro has super view, that means the widest possible angle. No matter if you're on the bank, the kayak, or the bass boat, super view is the angle you want to be in. So all the time when you see a camera on my chest, it's in those exact settings. All right, so we have every single camera angle up. We have my Sony camera here on the back. I'll explain them the mount that's on here in a second. I've got the chest mount, I've got the console GoPro, and I've got a GoPro on a pole in the seat post mount on my back deck of my Skeeter. So take a good look at all 4 angles here. The one angle I never use because I just don't really like the way it looks, kind of gives me a headache, is the hat cam mount. I think the only fisherman that can really, best utilize the head cam mount is a kayak angler, because when you're, down there in the water, my good buddy Andy Yak Angler, for example, and you're constantly looking around for, casting at a little brush pile over here, it's a lot more like omnidirectional, whereas on the bank or in a bass boat, you kind of are making casts usually in front of you, and so that's why I have most of my favorite camera angles in the back of the boat pointed towards the front, or in the back of the Jon Boat pointed towards the front. Pause. Hey, Tyler here from the future. I don't use that angle a whole lot anymore. The camera you see sitting on the monopod on my console, I found that it makes a whole lot more sense to have the camera on the back pole where the GoPro is, you see here. If you're confused what I mean, this will make a whole lot more sense here in a second. Now, how are all these cameras powered? My GoPro here on my chest is powered via a big old power bank here in my pocket that I keep wired all day with the battery out of my GoPro called Phantom Power that allows it to run all day long. And yeah, it's a little bit cumbersome sometimes with the spinning rod. The butt kind of can get stuck and snag the cable here, but that's just part of the game. I want to make sure I'm not having to replace batteries 4 to 5 times throughout the day. So I have what's called Phantom Power running this all day. Yeah, this is not actually Phantom Power. I've learned in the comments from the last video, it just is external power. I know, a whole lot less cool sounding. But one thing I've noticed, not just the time saved from switching batteries in your GoPro throughout the day by running external power, this system, if rigged correctly, actually stops your camera from overheating. So when you have a battery in your GoPro, that is the #1 heat causing issue in the camera, is the battery getting hot. It gets warm, it expands a little bit, and the camera gets extra hot. And if a camera's hot, it can't operate, it will turn itself off. And so when I run external power on my GoPros, the #1 thing I'm gonna say, if I can get this door off, is that you don't wanna have a battery inside at all. You wanna have the inside of the camera totally empty. And what that allows to happen is that the heat is actually here on the external power bank and not inside the camera. So in the blazing hot summer sun, is your GoPro on your chest or wherever you have it in the boat still gonna get hot? Yes, it will, but I have yet to have this thing overheat one time by running fully external power and not even having a battery inside this thing. Every action camera that I know of can work with external power without having an actual battery inside. I have also made one huge change in the last 2 years when it comes to my chest mount situation, and that is I've cut holes in all my shirts. For years and years, I just thought that I had to accept the fact that a chest mount with its ugly looking straps was just kind of part of the game. I'm a fishing YouTuber, I'm gonna have some camera gear on my chest. Not anymore. First step is put on an undershirt. I have some kind of, AFCO short sleeve performance shirt. Then I put my chest mount on with the clip here on the front, but no camera quite yet. Then I put my sun shirt back on, and I know it can be nerve-wracking to make a hole in your shirt, especially the first time you do it, but if you get the chest mount lined up, exactly where you want it, you kind of let the shirt fall, you'll see about the area where the cut needs to happen. So then I take scissors and I make a little tiny vertical cut, and I just go bit by bit by bit until the hole is just large enough to fit the bracket here, the 3-prong bracket for the action camera. Then what I can do is attach the GoPro, and you'll never see the chest mount at all. It's fantastic. Look at that. You can't tell me that's not better than this. And one big benefit you may not think of with this system is that if you are running external power and you have the power bank in your pocket here, you can actually run this up the shirt and then out the exact same hole that you made for the bracket. Run the cable around the back side and plug it in. And now you have your cable and your chesty fully hidden. And in doing this, you're never gonna have the problem where you're reeling and you reel up your GoPro cable. It's happened to me many times. If everything's underneath my shirt, albeit it takes one little cut, it makes my life a whole lot easier. Over the past 2 years, people have asked me all over the place, Tyler, what chesty are you wearing under your shirt? It's the same chesty, I just cut a hole. As well as the camera back there. It's on a Tato Designs pole. This pole here, I'll walk back to you guys, is designed by Bassmaster Elite Series angler Matt Heron and his son. All you gotta do is screw it into your seat post mount or kind of wiggle it in with a wedge, and it will be so sturdy. I know I've seen videos of Hunter Shryock going down the lake, in South Dakota with huge waves. It's almost like the GoPro's not moving at all. So I would highly recommend, if you want a GoPro angle in the back of the boat that, again, can see everything that happens up here. I mean, I don't care if your rod tip is high, if your rod tip is low, if a fish jumps back here, you can see it on a camera back here that you can't on some of the angles up here. Which is exactly why I don't use that angle anymore. I keep my big camera back here on the pole because, as you can see when I get up to the front deck here, I can see everything. I wouldn't say everything as good as a GoPro, but pretty close to it. And if I can use a higher quality version of a camera, my several $1,000 camera here, as opposed to the GoPro, I'm gonna do it. Is the GoPro still great from this angle? Absolutely, but I'm never gonna use the console angle again because with a 16mm lens, I can see way more of the boat from back here than I ever could from here. Now, am I gonna go riding down the lake with the big camera back here? No, I'm not. But having the camera back here as opposed to here gives me a better view. I can see more and I don't have to screw any holes in my fiberglass anymore. Having your big expensive camera or GoPro on that is so much easier on a fishing day and more safe for your equipment than having a tripod, because if I was to take my tripod here and extend all the legs and try to fit it here in the center of my boat, and then you hit a big wave, say bye-bye to your cameras. So that right there is my bass boat camera setup. Now, I did say this video also applies to you guys in kayaks as well as Jon boats and bank fishermen. So let's talk real quick about the different types of angles for you guys who fish and want to film in those aspects. When I'm filming in a kayak, I usually have two cameras. I've got one on my chest and I've got one on the front of the kayak. And the reason for that is because I want to use my GoPro as my main audio source. Or if it's windy, my audio source will be my lavalier microphone, either, like I said, clipped to my shirt with the windsock or stuck to my chest as it is today. I know tons of kayak anglers like Greg Blanchard and Christine Fisher. They use a camera behind them on their kayak, kind of on like an L-shaped mount pointed back towards their shoulder. I would love to start implementing the usage of that mount in my videos. I just haven't bought one yet. Pause. Tyler again from the future coming at you live, because I in fact have bought one of those mounts on my kayak, as you've seen in my recent kayak videos, and it's turned out fantastic. Now, the one thing I want to say about this mount is that it matters which side of the kayak behind you put the camera. So it all depends on your personal preference, but for me and my needs, aka needing a good thumbnail image, specifically on a hook set, I have the camera on behind my right shoulder. And that's just the area that I found gives me the best shot, as opposed to the camera on the front left. Well, that is the best angle that I can have for the needs on my kayak. Now, maybe you want to have the camera on the left side because you have your rods on the right. It all depends on what you need. But again, 2 years ago, I hadn't bought one of those. Now I do. I wish I had a long time ago. Now, when it comes to a Jon boat, I'm going to have my GoPro chest mount on for sure. And then maybe if I have an extra GoPro, I'm gonna either hard mount a GoPro mount onto the boat, or just use one of the clamp mounts here and clamp it onto the side of the Jon boat with, of course, the camera angled into the boat. That way, if it falls or gets knocked, it doesn't get knocked into the water. So Jon boat's pretty simple. And then lastly, from the bank, you guys have seen in almost all of my 100 ponds videos, I have the chest mount on, and it's because it's so simple. When you're bank fishing, sometimes you're, hopping over trees or fences and you're trying to weasel your way into a backwater area, and bringing along with you a tripod to get a second angle is not really always practical. Now, I try to do it as much as I possibly can, but if I'm fishing somewhere that's really hard to get to or it's a long walk, I'm just gonna bring my GoPro chest mount, make sure I have it angled what I would say is kind of like a 1 o'clock if you're looking at the clock here, and you just got to get used to, on the chest mount, your hand kind of touching the camera. As long as you don't like whack a hook set and really get the camera like pushed upwards. Some anglers definitely can't film with a chest mount on, and I understand that. One angle that I'm really not a huge fan of, to be totally honest, is the GoPro on the console. And I really don't like it because it is so low to the boat deck, and I think there's better options, especially if you have a bass boat. You can put your camera on the back deck and it'll have a much wider viewpoint, get more things on camera, and I don't know, I just think the console mount's kind of overrated in 2018. So I would not recommend the console mount. Matter of fact, we're gonna turn it off. And one more thing I forgot to tell you all about my audio setup underneath my chest mount is that I actually clip both my microphones, whether it's this one here, the wireless, or my wired lav, to the chesty itself under the shirt. So gotta take it off again. If I've got a wired lavalier, I may wrap it, a few times, that way it can't pull on itself underneath here, and then I'll clip it kind of as close as I can to my neck without being like all the way up here and getting muffled if I put my head down. So maybe down here is a good spot for it, and then of course my shirt goes on over the top. But one thing I love about the DJI mic is that there's no cable and it can record internally. You can press the record button on the side and I think it'll go up to 8 hours of recording time. So for both myself and Alton on tour, I take the mic, I put the wind fuzzy on, I clip it either to the top of the chest mount there. Again, the camera's gonna be on top of it, but it's behind, so it doesn't matter. Or, more commonly, I clip it right here. And all day long, you never see it because my shirt's on, but I'm getting fantastic audio either connected straight to the camera or recording to the device itself underneath my shirt. I mean, look at that. You can't even see it. But that's enough talking, folks. I say we get to some fishing so you guys can see how every angle looks on a bass boat. So the first angle I want to focus on is the chest mount, talking about the pros and cons of the chest mount. Now here is the natural chest mount audio in a little bit of wind. I'd say it's blowing, I don't know, 4 to 10 miles an hour right now, which is definitely not a lot, but as you can tell, that's enough to kind of give it some not pleasant wind noise. So we're gonna go back to the lavalier mic, and as you can tell, it got considerably more clear. Now there's quite a few pros of having a chest mounted GoPro camera for filming your fishing. The first of those being that you can really kind of point it anywhere you want, and it's not gonna be super shaky like a head camera could. You know, a head camera, you can go up and down or left and right. A chest mount, you can really only go left and right. So there's less axes for the camera to make someone sick while watching. And so that's why I like the chest mount. I think a chest mount is relatively simple to wear. And like I said, only takes a battery pack to keep it running all day. Now there's one major con to a chest mount, and that is that if you're fighting a fish and either your hand or your arm or something is blocking the camera, you're not gonna be able to see a fish jump, you're not gonna be able to see a blow up. And so that's why I've kind of learned to keep my hands down on the bottom side, even when fighting a fish. That way, if a fish jumps right here, of course, I could get it on this back camera right here. That's why I run 2 different cameras, or on the camera way in the back. But if you're just gonna run one camera, I would recommend running a chest mount. Now you can also run just one camera in the back of the boat. I see most people when they're fishing a bass tournament doing this. The problem is, can you guys back there hear what I'm saying right now? I'm talking normal volume, you can't hear me? That's right, they can't hear me at all because the wind noise and I'm too far away from the camera. The same thing applies to the console mount. If I'm fishing from the console mount and I turn this way and try to talk, I'm gonna turn this camera's audio on right now. I'm talking normal, I'm talking about the main wall over here. Oh my gosh, I caught a fish. You couldn't hear any of that, could you? No, you couldn't. That's why you need an audio source on your body. And knowing this about the console mount brings me to the camera in the back of the boat, or the back of the kayak, for example. If the camera is that far away, the cons are you're not gonna hear much audio at all, even if it's dead calm, unless you make like a loud exclamation noise or boat flip a big fish and go like, let's go. The camera back there is not going to hear you and your buddy talking up here, or a joke you say, or a tip you give, and that's why the chest mount or a lavalier mic is crucial. I can't overstate this. So one more time, let's go with all 3 camera angles. We got the chest mount, the console in the center, and the pole in the back. I think these are the 3 best camera angles, and if you can combine 2 of them, if you've got 2 cameras, I would highly recommend the chest mount and a raised mount on the console, or a pole all the way in the back with a GoPro on it. And never forget how important audio is. And for the final part of this video, I want to take you guys behind the scenes to my brand new studio I like to call The Ledge. Welcome. Nifty, huh? Nighttime, daytime.
Nighttime. Daytime!
Now, why, you may ask, Tyler, do you need to build a studio? Couldn't you just film your videos outside at the pond or on your bass boat? And the answer to that is, of course I could. But what kind of fun would that be? I thought it would be so stinking cool to have a space that I could film inside where the conditions are a non-factor. The wind, the rain, and the sunlight. It is actually 11:36 p.m. when I'm filming this video. My son is asleep, my wife is asleep. I can actually film at very odd times of the day because of this studio. It has made me ultra efficient. But I could not do it without Amaran, as I thanked earlier on in this video. They provided all of the lights and the expertise for those lights and the angles. And so I want to teach you guys a little bit about lighting when it comes to making your fishing videos, because without good audio, your videos stink. And if you're gonna film in an enclosed space, so inside your garage, inside your office, or a studio like this, and you don't have the proper lighting, your videos aren't gonna look good. The 2 main types of light that you are going to need if you want to fill an area with light to look better on on camera is going to be a key light and a fill light. Let me open up the Sidus Link app here and show you guys what I mean by these two lights. The key light is the most important light. It is the strongest, the most powerful, and it shoots, at least in this scenario, from one side and kind of fills the majority of my body and my face. That is the key light. The second light is going to be my fill light. That fills the rest of my face with a different kind of lighting angle and sometimes a different hue in itself. I believe this light over here, the key light, is more on the blue side of things, and the one over here is more on the orange side of things. Now, I could easily take those two main lights right here and call it quits. It looks pretty dang good, but I wanted to make sure my background had just a little bit of light on it. So I've got two lights off to the sides, that one there and that one there, that help light up the patent drawings and the bass behind me. Now, by no means do you need all this different type of lighting if you're gonna film inside, and nor am I saying that I know everything about lights. Amaran just helps me out a ton, pick out the right ones and make sure my studio was ready to go in case I wanna make it brighter or darker. And their mobile app called Sidus Link makes changing the color temperature and the brightness of the lights so easy with a touch of a button. Now, one thing that is true about most studios out there is that what you see on the camera is nowhere near what it looks like, nor for sure not as organized as it looks in real life. So I'm gonna show you guys a shot right now of what this studio looks like from behind the camera. This right here looks like organized chaos, if I'm being honest. There are cables everywhere, there are sound blankets. It is a lot more cramped than you probably would think it is, but you know what? With everything set up the proper way, nobody at home would ever know. Although y'all know now, so surprise. Now, hopefully this studio build here has shown you guys the importance of having good lighting. So if you wanna film in your boat, in your garage or storage unit, or maybe in your office or your living room, you wanna film better fishing videos inside, I would highly recommend picking up some light of some kind. The lights that I have are super fancy, they're expensive, they are not for every situation. Amaran has tons of lights at tons of different price points, and they've got an awesome creator set coming out that gives you guys everything you need to kind of get started from a lighting perspective, because I'm just telling you, whether you're shooting yourself, your fish, or your products, rods, reels, lures, baits, having good lighting is extra crucial. I'm sure if we sat down one-on-one, there's stuff that I could teach you guys about how to become better videographers and camera guys, and heck, maybe 2 to 3 years from now, I'll be recording the exact same video, but with even more stuff that I've learned in those years. If you've got any questions about video or audio or whatever, leave them down in the comment sections below. I will make sure to answer every single one of these comments as long as the video's on YouTube. And if you have a very specific question, I will have my email right here, tylersreelfishing@gmail.com, or just shoot me a message on Instagram. And again, I will have all of my camera gear, from power banks to cameras to lenses to audio to lights, listed down in the video description. Make sure if you're gonna shop for camera stuff, use those links. It would help my channel greatly continue to grow. My name's Tyler. I know this video was a bit different than your average fishing, but I hope it helps somebody out there, and we'll see you guys next time right here on TRF.